Hi guys, it's Rick Shiels down here at Quest Golf Academy here at Prairie Sports Village. And I'm going to be hitting the new Taylormade M1 Driver, and I've also got the Taylormade M2 Driver. Now you might think, hold on, is this a year old? But no, these are brand new drivers, 2017. They've stayed with the same name with some differences. Let's have a look. First off, we see the head cover, black boxing glove head cover with glimpses already of this kind of yellow-green, they've called it kinetic green colouring scheme. It looks a little bit familiar, that colour. Let's go into the driver. Taylormade M1. I'll do the M2 in another video, stay tuned for that. But underneath the head cover, we see some similarities from the top. We see a lot of differences from the bottom. So let's talk about what has changed with this driver. M1 was incredibly successful last year. Both M1 and M2 were unbelievably successful drivers. The best players in the world using these, and some even the best players in the world switching to the M1 and M2. So whatever they brought out next, it's got to be something special. And they've changed a few factors on the bottom of the club. They've now incorporated some of that carbon that was featuring on the top of the head underneath. So they've now got a whole toe section that is now this multi-material carbon kind of material that's light and powerful and still strong. And what that's allowed them to do is strip a load of weight there to stick it elsewhere in the club. And what the first thing, as soon as I took this out of the packaging and took it out of the head cover, the first thing I saw when I looked down at the club head, I saw that familiar black and white contrast at the top of the head, but the driver seemed massive. The back of the head seems huge. And it was only when I actually looked at it compared to my original M1, I was like, it is really different. It's massively different. The white border at the top of the head is thinner on the new one, and the back seems to go back forever. And the way they've managed to do that, because they've stripped that weight and they've cut off almost half of this toe section, it's freed up some cc's to the size of the head to strip that weight back. That also gives it advantages in the way that they've actually made this T-track longer. So they've made that track, the adjustability on the M1, more adjustable. They've pulled that weight all the way back. So I'm going to hit it first setting in the weight all the way back and the weight in the middle. So neutral setting, not far away where I normally hit my M1 anyway. Underneath those also we see a couple of these glimpses of this kind of yellow kinetic green. I'm not a massive fan of that. I loved the black, white and red contrast last time. And this green, I don't know, it kind of makes it look a little bit, I don't know, it looks a little bit cheap with that. And I'm sure not everyone will agree, but it kind of, I don't know, it loses that little bit of, oh, this looks really top end. It's kind of, I don't know. I don't think they needed that. I think they should have stuck with the red colouring system. This also comes out in a 440cc head, so slightly smaller. Normally less forgiving, but now because they've got that weight back, apparently the 440 is performing as good as last year's 460. I will test that. I won't hit, just listen to what they say. I will test that. Let's give it a hit. That's what we're waiting for. Let's give this a wallop. So like I said, I've got this in the weight back, weight centre. I always have loved that black and white contrast on the head. And I'm so glad that wasn't lost. I'm so glad. And I think if anything, they've made it slightly better looking because they've made that white border, certainly the middle bit, much thinner. The white border doesn't go all the way around the toe like last year's model. It goes more around the heel, but I think it just looks really smart. I've got this in 9.5 and I'm hitting it with my normal shaft, my Rogue Dealer shaft. Let's give this a hit. First ever hit of this club. Let's see what it can do. Oh, that felt awesome. High off the face, I must admit, but did feel really good. Nice. Nice first start. I'm happy with that. 290 carry for 305 total distance. So that was like mega high off the face, but I always know on this driver, when you hit it that high off the face above the equator line, I'm saying this driver because I feel like I've been using its older brother for so long. That's where the M1 seems to get the best performance really high off the face. It's not a bad start at all, that. Yeah, it's like that, really like dead, low spin shot. A little bit shorter that time, not quite as long a carry, 293 total distance and around 280 carry. What was that? 277 carry. Still felt good off the head. Probably not as high on the club head, so probably, actually it still spun very low. Now considering this driver, that's not in the lowest spin setting. I've got that in the most forgiving setting, weight all the way back. Both of those two first golf shots have actually spun really low. You know, less than 2,000 RPM. Let's go a few more. That's again the high one off the face. That's just going to go forever. Whether it's just because I know how to make this driver work or whether it just works. I just know where to hit on the head to make it go decent distances. 282 distance, 300 total distance, 1,500 spin. So low spinning. For a big sized head, so low spinning. It feels very similar to the original M1. It sounds ever so slightly different. It sounds not as dead. I would say a little bit louder. And I'll do a head-to-head with this in the original M1 later on down the line. Now, they have featured this, and it doesn't actually say it on this head, but I know they've got it on the M2, this geo-acoustic, which is geometry and acoustic slammed together. Doesn't actually say it on this head, but I know they've talked heavily about it in the M2, and they've talked about it a lot in the irons as well. So far, so good. I'm going to hit one more, and I'm going to move that weight forward and see what it does then. 3 good drives so far. Again, just high off the face, low spin, as straight as you like as well. It's really great. It's lovely. It feels great. I don't like the look of the bottom as much as I did the original version, but I'm not looking at the bottom that much. I'm looking at the top. When I look down at the top, it fills me with loads of confidence, and I just know I catch this high off the face, and it just goes forever. Let's have a look at those numbers first off. So let's have a look at, if we have a look at the average carry distance, that was at 282. Now granted, I think if you went back and watched my original M1 video when I was out in the States, t-shirt on, smacking it as hard as I could. I think I've changed in a year now. I don't maybe try and hit the ball quite as hard as I used to. And that was 282 carry for a 298 total distance. I like that. It's perfect. So it sits in really nicely. 290 was my best one. 305 was my best total distance. Spin rate was unreal. 16,080. It's like hits every criteria perfectly. Launch angle was 13.5. I think if that actually launched a little bit higher, that would actually probably bring the spin up and maybe even maximise it slightly more. Just under 160 club head speed. Let's have a look at some... sorry, that was ball speed, 160 ball speed. Yeah, 160 club head speed would have been pretty impressive. You can see the strike locations there, and that's where I'm getting that best performance from. All above the equator line, every single one of them. Club head speeds were 111.1. The smash factor I was getting there was 1.42. And it just, like I say, it's an odd one because it feels like this is familiar ground to me, this driver. It feels familiar ground to me, and I've had the M1 in my bag for the whole of last season. I had it in the bag since last September, and that's a long time for me, the driver. And this just feels like it's the same model, maybe a little bit different in the looks. Performance, we'll have to wait and see whether it's any better than my original M1. Let's just quickly now move the weight forward, and let's see what it does if I move the weight forward as well. See if there's actually any differences when I switch that weight around. So familiar settings with the weight movement. I think this back weight might be slightly heavier than last year's model, but I bet there's hardly anything in it. The two weights do get closer together now, actually. Because they've changed that channel, they've stripped a bit of the gap between, the two weights can get really close together. Which is, I know, something that a lot of, probably shouldn't have done, but a lot of players actually did, where they actually bought another weight and shoved it in there. I don't think that's a legitimate thing to do, but they were doing something around that. I'm not saying tour players, but certainly players, generic golfers were doing that. Let's give that a hit now, weight forward. I don't know how the numbers are going to improve. From what I saw, those numbers are pretty much bob on to where they need to be, but let's see if there's any difference in that weight moving forward. Does it become any less forgiving? Oh, that was a bad hit. Way more from the heel. But it's still done well. Surprised there, actually. That felt dreadful. That felt right off the heel. 275 carry distance shorter. That can't have spun less. 1800 still again. Bad hit. I expected that to be in the 2300s maybe on that driver. The RPM of the spin. Let's go a couple more with the weight forward. Oh, that's way left. Way left. Don't like that weight there. I can feel that it doesn't offer as much protection when that weight is all the way forward. It feels like it's very, it feels like the head's unstable. It feels like there's no weight at all at the back of this club head. And because the mass of the back of this club head has got bigger, as soon as I move those weights forward, it leaves the back very isolated. It feels like there's nothing back here. Well, there isn't. There's literally carbon, and that is it. So I think the weight forward position with this driver may become redundant. I think they've given more options with moving that weight all the way back and forward, giving it more track. But after the first two shots, it feels like there's just nothing at the back of the head. Let's go one more. It's a good result, but it doesn't feel anywhere near as good. I would be super surprised. I'd love to know what type of golfer would have that weight so far forward. Either someone who's unbelievably accurate hit in the middle of the club face, or someone that spins it a hell of a lot. That was 1400 RPM spin. I think they've made that spot redundant. One, with it being a heavier weight, also the fact that you can get it closer to the club face, which I don't know if it's a shame, might not bother that many people, but I think they didn't need to go that far forward with that track, but they've given it as an option anyway. Taylormade M1. I think they've done a very good job of that. I'm glad that they've not gone silly and changed what was a winning formula for them. The M1, the M2 was a winning formula. I'm so glad they've not changed it that much. They've enhanced it potentially. I will see if that actually is the case against my old M1. Stay tuned for that review coming soon. For what they've done so far in the performance, I can't fault it. Certainly when the weight's going back, I cannot fault it. Would I use it in that weight back? Absolutely yes, 100%. This could be the next toy that goes in the bag, because for me, visually, nothing looks better than that crown. I just think it looks unreal. And that's me saying that after playing with this driver, or a driver that looks similar to this, for over a year. And that's not like me. I normally swap and change a lot. I think they could have done a slightly better job on the cosmetics at the bottom. I don't think it looks anywhere near as pretty or as top end as last year's model. That's just my opinion. This kind of yellow green, kinetic green / vault colour, it's quite interesting. Guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, click thumbs up. Comment below what do you think of the new Taylormade M1. Stay tuned for the M2 video coming next. That does look very different from below, but let's see what the performance does. I think that might sit very closely to this driver. Don't forget to also, I'm going to do the iron review coming soon, hybrids, fairway woods, and I'm also going to do some head-to-heads. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.